did you know Bioware's making another game? I know, right? But this one's got like robotic suits that you can put on and you can like ground pound the floor like in all other Bioware games. It's like really pretty and like you can fly and boom boom pow pow shoot shoot. It's got like all the RPG stuff taken out because, you know, fuck that gay shit. God, what's it called? Man, so forgettable. Anthem.
Anthem. That's the one.
If you're a fan of Western RPGs, then there's perhaps a small chance, maybe, you know, just a small one, that you know who Bioware is. One of the few good things to squeeze out of EA's asshole, once highly regarded as masters of the RPG genre. Bioware was responsible for crafting deep lore, creating unique atmospheres, RPG mechanics, and gaming icons. But of course, unless you're as pubescent as my fanbase, you probably wouldn't know that. The Bioware most of you probably know is this Bioware. Of course, all of you are probably asking, well, Fritanga, what's wrong with this game? It looks pretty. It's got that high budget quality. It's expansive and incredibly ambitious. It has a unique identity and a living, breathing environment. So what's so wrong about it? Everything is wrong about it. There's the classical saying, never judge a book by its cover. But I'm gonna be a smartass and interject. This is a video game. But more specifically, an EA video game. And even more specific, a Bioware video game. Bioware. And of course, it isn't uncommon for developers to dip their toes into all sorts of different genres. It's a nice change of pace for developers to get out of their comfort zone and explore something else. But of course, when it comes to Bioware, it doesn't seem like this is an attempt at a different genre. This almost seems like a natural transition. But let's face it, we saw this coming. We saw the oversimplification and dumbing down of their RPGs years ago. It was eventually all going to lead to this, but we just didn't want to believe it. Unless it has guns and Mountain Dew and Doritos, EA don't want it. Unless there's enough room to implement microtransactions and pay-to-win opportunities, EA don't want it. When they tell you everything EA touches dies, they're not kidding. Remember The Sims? Remember Star Wars Battlefront? Remember Battlefield? But of course, I already made a half-assed EA rant video. And I'd do another video raping them, but viewer discretion is advised. No, instead my focus is on Anthem. Unless you're retarded, which is about 90% of the consumers out there, then you can blatantly see that this game is going to be EA's destiny. Meaning it's going to be deprived of any substance, it's all going to be just one beautiful little picture, and if you want access to anything interesting, it's going to cost you a little extra. But exactly what is there to say about the game? At a first glance, it looks like your generic third-person action-adventure game with quote-unquote RPG elements. It's got your basic open world, which doesn't mean much now since this genre is oversaturated to all hell. You wear these robot suits that you can go in. Yahoo! You fly around, there's alien life, there's objectives, markers, and it's shiny and pretty. Aside from these things, there isn't really much we know about Anthem. But from what we can see here, this is clearly the complete opposite of what Bioware once was. Aside from the third-person perspective and the basic as hell shooting mechanics, there isn't anything here that resembles Bioware. From what is presented, there isn't any signs of player choice or freedom, or any aspects of role-playing. All the delicious ingredients and spices that make up an excellent Bioware game are gone. It's as if they stirred a bowl of batter and called it good. Whatever audience they once appealed to, they've turned their backs on, in favor of the EA business practices. The cancer of the gaming industry. But what point is there in complaining, aside from getting me some views and ad revenue? Well, there really isn't any point. The hype is already being built up. People are already on board for EA's next cash cow. You'd figured they would have learned their lesson with the failures of EA in 2017. And believe me, there were so fucking many. Remember the excellent lines and voice acting that was delivered in Mass Effect or Dragon Age? Yeah, that got ditched for things like,
oh, there are a lot of scars down there.
It's as if Bioware knows this game is generic as fuck, and because of that, they're not even going to bother putting any effort into it. This isn't them. But of course, EA seems to think that just because Bioware likes space travel and having robotic suits and plasma guns, that this is right up their alley. All they have to do is trim the fat make it marketable, but more importantly, make it online focused. That way, it becomes far easier to implement any sort of microtransactions. And at this point, if you think EA isn't going to do that, quite frankly, you're fucking retarded. If you haven't been paying attention to the development behind Mass Effect Andromeda, and the chaotic problems going on with Anthem right now, including with their lead animator leaving, and the lore being dismissed so early on, it's plain to see that this game is being set up for failure. Bioware is going to become EA's next victim. Their next bitch. Honestly, I don't want to have negative things to say about Anthem. I wish I had positive things to say. I wish I had excitement. I wish each and every news article that was released on this game was something positive. I wish I could look at it and hardly contain myself in excitement for the journey that was going to be laid ahead of me. But now when I look at it, all I can see is the framework to something. And that something is the structure that EA plans to keep Bioware in. As far as I can see it, there are two things that can happen here. One, Anthem can succeed because consumers are retarded and the game becomes a financial success. Or two, the game can bomb and fall flat on its face and hardly sell any copies, to which I foresee the absolute shutdown and death of Bioware. Anthem is what EA wants. It doesn't matter if it's what me or you want. It doesn't matter if they're not properly using Bioware's talents. It doesn't matter. Anthem is their baby. This is where they want to direct Bioware. This is where they feel Bioware belongs. Aside from their pockets, the outcome of Anthem is going to decide the fate of Bioware. And for that very reason, I hate this game. I haven't played it. I don't plan on playing it. I don't plan on watching any Let's Plays. I don't want to hear about it. All I do know is that this game will single-handedly be responsible for the downfall of Bioware. Because ultimately, if it does end up succeeding, Bioware will die in the same way Fallout died. The next games will be designed to appeal to a wider demographic. Bioware will no longer be recognized as the RPG masterminds, and they will continue to produce the empty, shallow, generic experience that you can get from Ubisoft or Activision. And if you ask me, that is a fate far worse than death.
Fritanga sucks ass.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Be sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick,
Kick,
punch,
punch,
jump,
chop,
block.
block.
Once more now, kick.